All right.
All right.
I think everybody
I
who
think
is
everybody who is
coming is ours.
coming is ours.
So yeah, so you're
So yeah,
saying
so you're
staying
saying
in place?
staying in place.
What? Who are we getting
What
echo
who we
from?
getting echoed from?
Somebody's echoing.
Somebody's echoing.
Somebody got their
Somebody
speakers
got their
on.
speakers on.
Is it
Oh,
me?
Mike, are you
Oh, Mike, are you
speakers on your headset?
on your headset?
No, I just got. I'll see if I can turn it off. One sec. Let me leave and come back. See if that helps. More. Is that better or is it still the same?
Yo,
Yo,
it's still doing it
it's
for some
still
reason.
doing it for some reason.
Okay. Let me see here if I can.
Yo,
Yo,
Is that better?
test one,
test
two.
1, 2.
Hello.
Hello.
I don't know why it's
I
still
don't know
doing
why
it.
it's still doing it.
Really odd because I
Really
even
odd.
muted and see if it was me, but I don't know.
Hey, Travis, say something. I'm gonna mute my mic. Micah, say something.
What's up, bro? Can you hear me?
Okay. So my voice is the only one doing it. Now it's
I
not doing.
don't.
hear
I don't hear
nothing.
you on my end.
Now it's not doing it. You fixed it, or I don't
Okay.
know if it was me or you, but
I think it was me. I had my ear pod set up, but I'm just gonna use the mic on my device.
nice. Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. So yeah. Last two episodes. What a ride. Uh, let's start with the first one. Was that episode 5?
Yeah, episode 5, chapter 21. I think.
Yeah. So that was a really good episode.
Yes.
I forgot to take notes once again, so I'm not gonna have a great track of mind here, but I remember that being a really good episode and just really enjoying the fuck out of it.
Dude, I think the highlight of that episode is when what's his name, Captain Tarv or the
Tarkin?
yeah, Captain Tarkin, when he found he's in the cantina, and Zeb comes up from um, Rebels. I was like, yes, oh crap, it's Zeb. And I had
I
to confirm watching the credits too, so I was like, yeah, turns out.
right, I had to do the same thing. I because I'm Rebels is some of my favorite Star Wars content ever. Danny, who isn't here tonight, we've talked about it so many times on the podcast that it's just one of my absolute favorite things that is just rewatchable in my opinion. One of the most rewatchable things they have content wise. And when Zeb came on screen, I was like, okay, that's a what are his species called? I'm not gonna be able to remember because I'm trying to think of it now. But anyways, I thought it was his species, I didn't think it was him. But as soon as he started talking, I was like, oh, it's fucking Zeb Aurelios. Like, and then when I realized that, I actually started tearing up because I was like, so it made me so emotional because they really did good on his CGI, even though he was
Dude,
only there for like a minute. I
you're absolutely right, man.
just compare
Like,
it to the green swamp thing that we've been seeing for the last few episodes. The Pirate King, Gillian Shard or whatever his name is.
yeah.
The CGI for Zeb was like out of this world compared to that guy.
Well, I think it was a mixture for the Pirate King, it was a mixture of CGI and practical effects. So
Okay.
when you watch his mouth move, it looks like puppeteering or animatronics.
Right, I noticed that. Yeah.
And so I think it was just them trying to mix it up. But you're absolutely right. The CGI on Zeb, it's like, whoa.
Mhm.
Like it actually looks like a feasible creature that you can walk into and talk. Or it's, almost, it was on the level of CGI like Avatar. Like it was brilliant.
Definitely. And same voice actor too, which is great. I knew we were gonna get. I mean, that just tells me. I really hope in the last two episodes we get at least another, or maybe even a Rebels character is gonna be like a main protagonist in the story for at least one of these next episodes. Because Zeb was just. It was amazing. Like I said, it made me emotional seeing him finally in live action, but that was just a tease. You know what I'm saying? It was probably less than a minute screen time. So as often as it and also I don't know if you noticed this or if you've seen anybody talk about it online, but there was three other people sitting at that bar that are relevant to the Star Wars world.
Oh yeah, Dave Filoni was sitting on the far right side as he walks into the cantina, and he's wearing. I think he's wearing his signature like cowboy hat as well.
Yep.
So that's one thing about these live action series is they can really get creative, especially in the timeline we're in, with characters from multiple sources, whether it be the Clone Wars, like we got live action Bo-Katan, and we got live action Death Watch. We got I forgot. Oh, Night Owls. We got all that kind of thrown in, and it's to me, it's like, oh my! It's like you said, dude. I paused the show and start ranting to my wife, like, yo, I didn't believe they were gonna do that this early. You know what I'm saying? Like I mean, Ahsoka, yeah, that was great. But seeing Zeb was like, you're right, dude. It's amazing. And then my only thing that I was like a little pissed off was R5 is a little snitch giving away the Mandalorian's location. I was like,
he was, but I feel like that's what the dude that he gave that information to is one of the most wholesome characters in Star Wars. You know what I'm saying? Like, who's that dude? He's about saving people. He was in the rebellion. You know what I'm saying? He was part of the good part of the Republic. You know what I'm saying? So if anybody were to find out that information, that's one person I would feel safe knowing it, even though the Mandalorians probably don't feel that way because they don't know him or anything. But me being a viewer, that's like one of the safe people to know about it,
Yeah.
What do you think, Travis? Bleh.
Yeah.
What'd you think about that episode 5 with Zeb Aurelius?
It was one of those things where I was not expecting that, but obviously we know some shit's gonna pop off. Like, I mean, since we're over here with Mandos and all that, and I'm trying to find who's to say Sabine's not gonna hop out in the near future?
Oh, yeah. I mean, she's already cast. We talked about that last time, and we even looked at her picture, but I want Hera. I don't think they're gonna give us Ezra because that's like I feel like an Ahsoka thing. You know what I'm saying? But maybe the rest of the Ghost team besides Ezra, we can get the rest of them.
Unless they're just gonna drop that teaser at the end of the season.
Oh man, dude, they need to do something because this season it's been entertaining. There's been a couple episodes that are like, man, we're getting some real good Mandalorian lore. We're getting to see a lot of Mandalorians on screen at one time. Some good action sequences, but it's still kind of like, where the fuck are we going? 6 episodes in, we got 2 more episodes, and it's like they've set up some stuff, they've set up some cloning stuff, they've set up Thrawn a little bit, but both of the other seasons of The Mandalorian have had a plot line that is distinct. You know what I'm saying?
I would agree. I mean,
And
you could
this one doesn't have that.
well, you could almost predict what was going to happen in season one if you were, a diehard fan. You can, oh, well, it seems like they're going along this path. They threw us a Hail Mary with Luke in season two and Ahsoka coming in. That was awesome. But it seems like every season they're trying to do something where they have an animal from Star Wars lore that they bring, like the crate dragon. When they brought that in, and they showed it what it looked like. It's not a sketch anymore. It's actually something that's like ingrained in our heads now. You know what I'm saying? Like seeing the mythosaur, that's ingrained in our head now. We all before it was just something loosely spoken, and you had variable descriptions of it and pictures of it from fan art. But now we actually have a concrete foundation for some of these legendary creatures in the Star Wars universe. Like I'm almost like, what's happening next season? Is they gonna have a Zillow beast pop out of somewhere, and they take out a Zillow beast on the back of a mythosaur?
The mythosaur is gonna fight the Zillow beast. Is what's gonna happen.
Dude, that'd be epic. But I mean, it's the nostalgia level of this show it's something that I greatly appreciate, and it's magical just to watch them put this together. I think you're absolutely right. Like this season is the only season where it doesn't have like a concrete direction. There isn't like a north-seeking arrow that we can follow. There's been a lot of little tidbits. There's been a Thrawn drop. There's been Moff Gideon drop. There's been Zeb. So it's kind of like we're not exactly sure where it's going to go, but after watching the previous seasons, it makes it seem like the end of this season is going to be one of those holy shit moments. You know what I mean?
God, I hope so. I really hope so. What if they just don't bring the mythosaur back? Like that's all the mythosaur we got this season. Like that.
Well, I mean, I think that glimpse was just enough. I mean, like the fact that it's no longer like this engraving you see on Mandalorian armor. It's actually something that you can, yes, we see the skeletons of it everywhere in Mandalorian culture, but to see a living mythosaur is like, bro, like that's the real deal, man. Like, I mean, besides that Boba Fett short animation they did back a long, long time ago, that was the only other kind of concrete mythosaur that we had besides fan art. So I think it's like I'm hoping that they flip the direction and give us a clear path to wherever this goes. I'm predicting it's Moff Gideon, just because of the fact that he didn't make it to the tribunal, and then the way that the thing that got me kind of like where the hell are they going was that little piece of Beskar that was found on that ship. Like that seems like, to me, it seems like it's placed. You know what I mean? Like you don't see Mandalorians, even when Din Djarin got his armor and messed up by the Mudhorn, he still collected it and then presented it to the armorer to see if any of it was salvageable. So if someone actually got a piece of Beskar blasted off of their armor set, that would probably be something that they would bring back as a scrap for the foundlings. That's pretty much what we know so far.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't think that they would leave a trace behind like that. But I'm also wondering if this is like a commando squad that is basically commanded by Moff Gideon. Maybe they're a little careless, you know what I'm saying, and just don't care what they leave behind, because maybe they're about to attempt an uprise to power of some sort with, maybe even Beskar Dark Troopers. Maybe those are the next, you know what I'm saying? Because they would have had a hard enough time with Dark Troopers to begin with, and except for Luke showing up, obviously. But Beskar ones, they wouldn't have stood any kind of chance whatsoever. There's nothing that they had. The Darksaber is going to chop a few of them down before whoever's holding it goes down. But other than that, everyone would have been screwed. And just the fact that there was Beskar there from the ship that Moff Gideon was rescued from, or rescued, yeah, whatever you want to call it, he was taken from. That almost leads me to believe that Moff Gideon is Mandalorian himself.
You might absolutely be right. I mean, the how he's so wrapped up in the lore of like Mandalorian culture, he knows all the little secret tidbits about their
How did
history.
he know when he got the Darksaber taken away from him by Din Djarin at the end of season 2, and he's trying to give it back to Bo-Katan? This motherfucker's sitting on the ground, and he's like, "Oh, she can't take it like that. That's not how it works." And he's explaining how Mandalorian culture works. How does he know that stuff without, you know what I'm saying? Nobody even asked him, and he's blurting that stuff out. So it's like, I think he's a Mandalorian, like 100%. He might even be a Maldalorian from, the ones that were following Darth Maul back in the day.
You're right. What you think, Trav?
I honestly wasn't thinking any of that, because the only thing I was thinking besides the obvious is either someone might have planted that stuff, which I don't know. I don't think they really plant shit out in galaxy far, far away. This isn't, South Central LA where they got to be planting drugs on people and shit. Main thing I thought of was obviously Mandalorians think that Moff Gideon needs to go down and fuck justice and whatnot. So maybe they were like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get your ass," and then he broke away from that or something. Or who knows? It could be they're like, "Oh hey, let's get this guy. He's gonna lead us the right way." Or who the hell knows? There's a lot of what ifs.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards him being a Mandalorian, to be honest. I mean, why else would there be Mandalorians out there risking their lives trying to pull him off a ship and save him from trial? You know what I'm saying? Like, what hold would he have over Mandalorians if he is not, in fact, a Mandalorian?
There is a caveat to that, because in season 1, that whole drug deal with Dr. Purging, and we saw where we got to see the little stinger missiles pop out of his gauntlet for the first time. Mm-hmm. They paid Din Djarin and Beskar. You know what I'm saying? So maybe the reason why Moff Gideon is so relevant to the Mandalorians is the fact that he's sitting on a cachet of Beskar. You know what I mean? Because you almost think about it, there's almost like a kind of religious like connection to Beskar. Like it's not just a tangible object. It's like if you had a blessed cross with Jesus's DNA on it. You know what I'm saying? That's kind of exactly. I mean, they revere and they kind of worship that metal. You know, when the armorer is talking to Bo-Katan and she's telling her about her time in Mandalore's black what do I want to say? She's talking about all the furnaces that were on Mandalore, and she said it's like it was magical to hear the 100 ringings of the bell that was being turned into Mandalorian armor. Like there's something to it that I think that there's more of a relevance to Beskar than there is to regular people in the universe. Regular people, like you remember during that drug deal, he was like, "Oh, this is just precious metals to trade." You know, it was almost like if you stole gems in a jewelry heist movie, they're trading diamonds. You know what I'm saying? But to remember, the first thing Mando did was like, "Oh, I got this," and the armorer was like, "Oh, like you've provided armor to many of foundlings in the future." It might be one of the top 3 things in the Mandalorian culture besides protecting the foundlings.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I mean, the the value of Beskar in that culture, I mean, probably in the world or the universe, galaxy for that matter, is one of the most valuable things I could imagine. And, especially to the people who are native to where it's mined from, it's got
Mm-hmm.
to be probably the most valuable thing in the world to them, you know. So, yeah, that episode 6 was kind of a wild ride. You know what I'm
Well,
saying?
well, it was almost like watching a piece of Andor and Mandalorian being sewn together. You know what I mean? Because it was mostly dialogue. There wasn't a lot of action. It was
Right.
mostly this character development and also revealing more of what the Star Wars galaxy is like under the New Republic. You know what I'm saying? Like the one things that remember when they first go against uh, they first recover I forgot what the fish people are called. I can't um, but they when they first find them, they mention they have to go to this planet to
The
fulfill a
Mon
contract.
Calamari. Mon
Yeah,
Calamari.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Mon Calamari, right? And um, they talk about how they're loyal, how they're not just a ragtag group of hitmen, that they actually fulfill contracts. That's like their job. So I mean, like maybe you're right. It could be a part of the Night Owls that were converted to join Moff Gideon's side to acquire stolen Baskar, because that's also going to be relevant to them. Like it's I mean, there's just like this mythicism and fabled lore around Baskar, especially amongst the Mandalorians. But it's also like, what is I mean, what's the final mission? Like the armorer made Bo-Katan take off her helmet, which in that group is like a fashion faux pas. Like you don't do it. You know what I mean? It's like wearing a glitter shirt with leather pants. You know what I mean? It's it's something that it's something that's frowned upon. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's it seems like
For sure.
they're actually it seems like they're going to try to bring in, in this season on something that I mean, because if you think about it, the Mythosaur, if they would have ended the season that same way, everyone would have, oh Jesus, man,
Right.
this is
Yeah.
this is the coolest thing ever. So there's got to be some kind of hype that they're blowing up, like when Din Djarin went to go see Bo-Katan, why the hell was there a couple fleets or a couple sections of TIE fighters just out of nowhere? You know what I'm saying? And they were the TIE interceptors. They just weren't like a standard issue. They're more aggressive type. And the only person who was leading the Imperial Order to that direction was was Grand Admiral Thrawn. He was the one who was like, "Hey, I'm trying to design the TIE Defender to also be something we focus on besides Project Stardust." You know what I mean? So because I mean, you think about it, like they're still the blueprints of the Death Star, and when you look at the sequel series, they recycle that same concept and make it a like a solar system destroyer. You know what I'm saying? So there's got to be something big that they're putting together. Um, like I think like episode 5 was a good to show that cohesion of the warrior culture come together. It was awesome to see that, like Bo-Katan given that mission briefing. Like at that point, I felt like Bo-Katan's character was elevated a bit. You know what I mean? Because she was the only person I believe in that group that actually led a militant contingent of Mandalorians. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? I'll
Yeah.
be right back.
Yeah. No problem. Then we got to see her whoop that other dude's ass for that one scene.
Yeah, I was not expecting that. I mean, I didn't think that was going to necessarily go down this
Right.
episode. If anything, I thought that would have been somewhere later on down the road. But
Well, I'm glad they
the
did.
thing
I'm
that
glad they
shocked me
did
was
because it needed it.
Yeah, the thing that shocked me was fucking Jack Black. I like double check that real quick. I'm like,
Dude, it took me. I
what?
mean, I love, especially if these actors are fans of Star Wars. I love that they're getting the chance to do that. Because God, I mean, who wouldn't want to? If we got the chance to do something in a Star Wars show or movie, I mean, I know every one of us would jump on it in a heartbeat.
Oh,
I
hell yeah.
wouldn't care if they showed my face or not, bro.
Exactly.
You know, I could be a background blurred silhouette and I'd be happy as hell. You know,
I'm going to show it to everybody too.
you know, it's almost like, oh yeah, right there, I am, right there.
But
You know?
if they're legit fans of it, then I love the fact that they're doing that and interested in doing that. But having some of these big actors in Star Wars, especially, well, I didn't really know that was Lizzo until after when the credits rolled and I saw her name. So then I was like, oh, that's who that is. So I figured she was somebody relevant. I don't know enough about her to know her by face or whatever. Jack Black, him on screen completely takes me out of the story. 100%. It's like he did a great job, and I enjoyed the stuff that him and Lizzo both explained. Some of the lore we didn't know about, but just watching him talk in a Star Wars show, it's just like it's fucking. This is Jack Black. You know what I'm saying? Like it's so different, and it's almost hard for me to take. Like imagine seeing Jack Black in a scene with a Jedi or Luke Skywalker. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that kind of would take me back to the one thing that was greatly appreciated was the Christopher Lloyd drop. I was like, yes, like we're heading back to the future. We've got Christopher Lloyd, who played Doc Brown, was in there, and dude, I loved his character. Like the fact that like people, because they never really talk about this, you just think. Oh, it's the end of an era and everyone goes back to conforming in this new life. He was like, no, Count Dooku was right. Like
Count Dooku was right.
like I'm surprised that's not a meme we're seeing,
bro.
in Star Wars communities.
When that happened, when they found out, I was like, all right, he's up to some shit. But then he dropped Dooku's name. I was like, holy shit! Did not expect that whatsoever. But yeah, you don't think about that. Like, I mean. There is the elder generations of the Star Wars universe have been through a lot of societal changes and governmental changes. Like they've been through like at this point 3 different governments.
The Separatists, the Republic, and then now the New Republic. But then there's also
the Empire,
the Imperial.
as well.
Yeah, there's 4. So I mean, you got to think Christopher Lloyd. As old as his character was in the show, like he's experienced 4 different governments in his lifetime. Like, I guess at one point someone would have to be like, okay, who treated us the best? You know what I'm saying? And it seems like, Christopher Lloyd was, a profiteer, man. He was all about getting that money. Because, I mean, you think about it, the Trade Federation, was in the Separatists. It's like a robotics guild. I can't remember, but it was the Techno Guild. They were a part of it. So those are big pieces. I mean, like you think about it, Jack Black was right. Like how would anybody in the galaxy function without droids? Like it would send everybody back to the Stone Age. Like on that planet, that's what they were fighting for. They're like, hey, like we need these droids because if they stop working and stop doing the menial tasks,
all the people have to start doing it, and they don't know how.
We don't know how to grow food. We don't know how to work our own plumbing system. We don't know how to clean our water. I mean, these are like basic things that that you would even now people take for granted. So in the future, far, far away, I mean, that's like taking them back to the Stone Age. If they actually got to start doing stuff, I mean, like you think about it. The reason why Uncle Owen was getting a droid was to help monitor and keep track of his moisture farm. You know what
Mhm.
I'm saying? To make sure all the systems and software was running right. And so even in an outer rim planet, people still rely heavily on droids. And then like the I Have Spoken crew. Those people are have known as fantastic engineers, and and Din Djarin goes into it when he introduces Bo-Katan to him. He's like, "No, man, look, you got to know how to talk to these guys. It's all about respect." You know what I'm saying? And when he dropped the I Have Spoken, my wife was like, "Oh yeah, I remember that," and I was like, "Yeah, yeah, like this is."
I recognized the Ugnaughts immediately because the first one we saw in season 1 was what's his name? The voice he did the voice Nick Nolte.
Oh yeah, you are right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Nick
yeah.
Nolte did the Ugnaught in season 1, and I was always intrigued by that fact because that was kind of a voice cameo from him. So when I saw those, I was like, "Oh, there's Ugnaughts like Nick Nolte."
But even when Din Djarin dropped his name in front of the other guys, they were like, "Oh, we know who that is." So
Hmm.
there's kind of like, even in that culture, I guess being a useful person is it's like status. You know what I'm saying? He was a famed droid reprogrammer. If you think about, I can't remember those little guys that he tried to fix
Azilians.
yeah. But they were trying to fix what's his name? What's the droid name that from season 1? The nanny droid. But
Yeah, I can't remember.
yeah, he overwrote that programming. And remember, even those specialists on Navarro were like, "Hey, we don't know how to do this." It's for him to be like this loner on a planet who got free by doing his indentured servitude to the Empire. I would believe. I mean, he was such an OP mechanic that he was able to rewrite the original programming and then reprogram it, and it fulfilled its job. It protected Grogu at all costs.
Right. Yep. But yeah, the that's why I chose my background for this stream. It's Jack Blizzo.
Well, that's one thing that I do appreciate about the live actions is if you watch any of the mediums that have come out recently, they're filled with celebrity cameos, whether it be voice acting, whether it be someone's in a droid suit, like it's awesome. You know what I'm
Travis,
saying?
you were not entertained whatsoever by the Christopher Lloyd cameo
No, I
from
was.
my
I thought that was cool. I was wondering what he
okay.
was gonna do whenever I saw that he was announced for the season.
I legit thought he was gonna be the voice of Grogu.
I didn't think that. I don't know. I thought maybe he was gonna be some like Imperial dude working with Moff Gideon or something, or I don't know. You never know with who they're gonna have or
He's
what they're gonna
I,
he's
I,
do.
I thought they were going to stick to the professor kind of role, and he might have been in a Dr. Pershing flashback. You know what
right.
I'm saying? As another scientist, because I mean, everyone knows him for being this, creating the flux capacitor in the DeLorean. So I was expecting him to be some kind of like techno geek, but really he was some radical like fascist. You know what I mean? There's no other way to put it. He was like, screw all the governments. Dooku reign supreme. Like he was the man, dude. I mean, like even his name made him stand out. They were like, "Oh, go see Hellgate," and I was like, "Oh, that sounds nefarious as fuck. Like that's not what a good guy's name is."
Right. What a cool name he had though. Um, we were talking about when you stepped away a minute ago. I think that was at the very end of the last episode when Bo-Katan walks up to the other Mandalorian.
Night Owl.
Yeah, the Night Owl Squad,
Yeah.
and she just proceeds to beat the shit out of that one guy. Is she related to him in some way? I can't remember.
But see, this is the thing. It's like we only got to see in the Clone Wars and even in Rebels, like an inkling, like a small glimpse at the Mandalorian hierarchy. And so possibly, if you notice, certain names in Mandalorian culture carry weight. You know, whether it be because they were a previous leader or general or something, but like maybe he was like the a general's son or something like that because like there seems to be like some kind of it's almost like you keep what you kill. Like if you're the best fighter and the best warrior and the smartest people, almost like the Fremen from Dune, like you are a leader. You know what I'm saying? So like I mean, like if you saw, he had confidence. Like he's like, I'm gonna whip this bitch's ass. But then Bo was like, like I'm gonna hit you with this grappling cord and pull you right down and jump kick you in the face. I thought it was awesome. Like I mean, even when what's his name, that one, the black Mandalorian girl from what's season two, or yeah,
Yeah,
season two. When she fought Boba Fett, I thought that was awesome. You know what I mean? In that cantina.
it was a good fight. I still think Boba should have wiped the floor with her a little more than he
Yeah.
did, being older and more experienced. Um, Also taught by Jango Fett, and Jango Fett was like elite. You know what I'm saying?
Jango Fett at one point was the most lethal man in the galaxy. You know what I mean? So to have those boots to fill, I mean like that's one thing I didn't really like about the Book of Boba Fett. There were a lot of Tatooine flashbacks, but they didn't have many flashbacks referring back to his training with the other bounty hunters he worked with. Because
Right.
he worked with like the second best bounty hunter under besides Jango Fett. The dude with the hat. Who he can also use it as a shield and as a weapon. But he worked behind that dude, and they didn't show any of it. You know what I'm saying? So it's to me, it's like I'm like my standards are high for this show just because the budget per episode is so big, and like it's when you get episodes like episode 5, it it makes you feel like okay, that's where the budget's going. You know what I mean? Because you think about the star fight, the battle, the dog fight between Din Djarin and Bo-Katan, and then
And
the
the
the uh,
pirates.
the Corsair, that frigate. Dude, that was I mean, like they dropped bodies in that part, and dude, and the attention to detail even in the backgrounds as they're flying these starfighters dude, it's awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like it really is. I mean, like they are not wasting a penny. They're putting every penny to use. And
Right.
one thing that I don't know if either of you guys know, this show, Mandalorian, is one of the first shows ever made that doesn't have like a majority of the scenes green screen. So what they do is they have these giant curved LED screens, and so each pixel is an actual light, so the character actually gets to see what their environment is, and that's why I
Right.
think the acting's a little bit better because if you take like little shootouts like when those speeder troopers stole Grogu. Like when they're first going through that canyon, that's not green screen. That's all LED screen. You know what I mean? So it makes I guess it helps the actor stay in more of their whatever character uh, track they're trying to stay on. It helps keep them in line and now they don't have to guess what their character's looking at. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of made me appreciate Star Wars even more. The fact that they're also revolutionizing, how things are done production wise.
They call it the volume. That's the thing that you're in that does the pixelated surrounding whatnot. It's called the volume.
But it's badass, bro.
Hmm.
Like, I mean, like that way, if there's a dogfight, yeah, you have this mock interior of a starship, or you actually have a replica of the starship, but then you place it into those kinds of scenes, and it's almost like being a bobsled driver where they're all leaning into the turns. Like if you notice, Din Djarin, whenever he makes a turn, he tilts his head in that direction and then turns the controls hard in that direction. And it's pretty. I mean, like it makes the show better. But
Right.
the episodes like what was that, 3 and 5, or no, and 6 are the ones where like it kind of slows it kind of breaks up the continuity of the show, where it's like
The issue I have with that is with those episodes is like we waited 2 years for this. We should not have bullshit filler in this season of this show if we waited 2 whole fucking years to get this season. Like, I mean, I understand there's stuff we need to explain. There's stuff you need to set up the story. You need character development. Not everything can be shooting and action and lightsabers all of the fucking time. But we waited 2 fucking years. You know what I'm saying? Like episode 3 with Pershing, I think that was 3.
yes, 3.
With him, with the 50-minute long Pershing episode, that should only been like 20 or 30 minutes. That's prime example of something we did not. I mean, we needed that. I want the storyline. I want the backstory. But like I said, instead of being 45 or 50 minutes long, it should have been 20 minutes, 30 minutes tops for those scenes. And it's like we need to have a show that is on par with a product that was spent 2 years on, that had 2 years spent on it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, they could have did exactly what they did with Captain Tivla Tarva,
Tarkin.
Tarkin. Yeah, all right. So Captain Tarkin, how he went back, and then you have the cameo from the dude from SNL who played Ladies Man. That scene was only like 5 minutes, but it if they wanted to show how the Imperium or the New Republic is, that was a perfect depiction. They had this nonchalant. If they're not a part of the Federation, no one cares. You know what I'm saying? And that's, if they could have just did 10 to 15 minutes of like, oh, this is the actual way that the universe is being governed right now. But 50 minutes, like you said, dude, that was a waste of time. I think in a sense, because it's not like people are watching the show to see what Dr. Persian did. You know what I'm saying? Like we already know. We know he was, doing clone experiments. We saw those chambers in season 2 when they went and raided that base, and you see all those Snoke-esque looking like, pastry dishes, floating in the background, and it's like, okay, so he's an advanced cloner. He's trying to replicate the Camino skill set, but it's like
they're also trying to get him to get it to where he can clone Force sensitives, not just regular humans or another species. Somebody cloning a Force sensitive is a whole nother ball game, which I believe that's where Snoke comes from. He's a clone of someone or something, and somebody, maybe Pershing's involved, eventually had success in cloning, either cloning somebody who was Force sensitive or introducing the Force some fucking how into a clone. So I think that's definitely where that's going.
Well, that could have been answered with like a 10-15 minute flashback or scene where Moff Gideon's giving him the details of his mission. You know what I'm saying? Where he could have been like, hey, this is what we're looking for. We need to have a Force sensitive special forces trooper, and like that's your goal. Your goal is to figure out how to make that splice the DNA so that they have the best attributes of being being loyal, following commands, all that stuff. But then also throw in that element of, oh, now they have they're in tune with the Metachlorians so that they can use the Force and be adept in that skill set. But I mean, 50 minutes, and then we get another 30 minutes of just, I mean,
Jack
I
Blue.
under, I understand, that, hey, you got to, expand the universe and give us, an overall picture. But that could have been 30 minutes, man, in both of those episodes. And they could have did so much more with like either revealing the Mandalorian culture or, possibly
That's
another.
what I'm here for. Is like, okay, we took 2 years to get here. I want to see Mandalorians on screen. Maybe even a Jedi. Because we got a Jedi in season 2. We can do that again. I'm not going to fucking complain one bit. But at the very least, I want to see Mandalorians on screen. You already gave us Andor, which, love it or hate it, I am mostly in the middle. I think it's a good show. It's like the sequels for me. Like the sequels are good movies. They're not good Star Wars movies. Like Andor's a good show. It's not a good Star Wars show.
Yeah.
That's my opinion about it. But we don't need more Andor bullshit. You got Andor for that. You're already confirmed to season 2. We'll get more of that bullshit in Andor season 2. Give us Mandalorians on screen, and keep the bullshit to a minimum. I'm enjoying it. Like, don't get me wrong. When I say something like that, don't take it as I fucking hate this season. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't be staying up till 2 a.m. On Tuesday nights waiting on the episode to come out. If I wasn't enjoying the season, I'm enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. There's a couple, like episode 5, I thought was one of the best Mandalorian episodes of all 3 seasons, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was that good. So I am enjoying it, but like I said, and like you said, there's just a little too much extra nonsensical bullshit in the show this season.
In the one reason why I think they believe they had to do that is they were trying to explain what happened to Moff Gideon without telling us what happened to Moff Gideon. You know what I mean? It was like we had that whole sketchy kind of behavior from the communications officer. I think she's like G56 or whatever is her new Republic number. But like they like you said, man, and like I said earlier, that's 80 minutes of character development that they didn't flush out. I mean, they honestly could have gave us an explanation about what happened to Cara Dune, and I think that would have been better. You know what I mean? Because at least Cara Dune had FaceTime in both seasons. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, to me, I think that like the direction of the show, these last 2 episodes are gonna make or break it. Because if they give us another episode 3 or episode 6 where it's mostly people who aren't really relevant to the story or the progression of the Mandalorians, it's like you gotta give me something better than that, man. Like, you got to.
I don't know why it's so hard for me to lower my expectations when it comes to these Star Wars shows, because I've enjoyed them all, but there was shit in Kenobi that was fucked. Low budget even for what it should have been. Extra storylines that weren't necessary for Kenobi's story. Boba Fett, like we already talked about, some weird fucking writing in it. There was a Mandalorian episode in 1.5 Mandalorian episodes in Boba Fett where they retconned season 2. Basically, it's not literally, but they basically retconned season 2 in Book of Boba Fett. Andor was just like, if you want to watch a fucking political show with a bunch of talking and no Force sensitives or anything, or Mandalorians or anything like that, then you're gonna fucking love it, maybe. But I just don't give a fuck about it. So I don't know why it's so hard for me to lower my expectations. I guess it's because the first 2 seasons were so damn good. And we're groundbreaking, because it was the first Star Wars show on Disney Plus, first Disney Plus show. Not the first Disney show, because Rebels was technically Disney, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
So, but the first Disney Plus show, and it was amazing. I mean, season 1 was captivating. The ending of season 2, like the finale, was just fucking mind blowing. One of the, it was so, it trended so much right after that happened that I don't. There's not really anything in Star Wars, I believe, that has really ever trended like that, like
Bro,
Luke did.
Disney Plus got new subscribers after season 2
Right.
because people were like, "Oh, did you hear about this? Did you hear about that?" And I even remember, like, I think how we first started, we met in person was like, "Yo, season 2 of The Mandalorian was awesome." Like
Yeah.
when I think that scene with Luke going through all the Dark Troopers was
Right.
like one of the almost OP force scenes in Star Wars history ever to date. It was just like, oh man, we're getting 10 minutes of straight force using and slicing and dicing, and then once I saw once you saw that one gloved hand pop out as he squeezed that dark
Oh,
trooper,
dude, the force crush part. That is one of my favorite parts of force use in the entire Star Wars universe, cinematic universe.
mm-hmm.
And I am an absolute diehard Revenge of the Sith fan. That movie is one of the best movies in the. It's not. I don't think it's the best movie in the world, but it is one of the best movies in the world to me. I will take that movie to my grave. I don't care what anybody says about it because I know there's people who love it and I know there's people who hate it because of the acting or whatnot or how they were directed to act. But Revenge of the Sith is one of my favorite fucking movies ever, and it has more force usage than probably any other Star Wars movie in it. Um, that scene where Luke uses Force Crush fucking beats everything. It beats everything in my opinion.
Bro, that shit was like watching a knockout in the UFC in like the first 30 seconds of a fight. You were
Yeah.
just whoa, oh my god! And I mean, and you know how they have that meme of Joe Rogan going, oh
Yeah,
god,
yeah.
you know what I mean? That's exactly what I was like on my couch. Me and my son literally paused that scene and rewatched it like 8 times. That same night.
Oh, I
Like
was
my wife,
crying. I had tears rolling down my face. I was crying. I couldn't
like,
believe
and then when he dropped the cloak, and they were like, "Oh, it's Luke Skywalker," that
it.
to me was like, "Oh my god, bro!" Like you like that
Well, when I
still.
saw the X-wing fly in, I went like this and I paused it. I paused it on the X-wing and I probably sat there just like
Is
this
that who I think it is?
for 5 minutes fucking straight and did not continue the episode. Just sitting there intaking what I'm seeing on the screen right now because who else is going to show up at that point in time with what's going on in that ship, that type of ship? It's only going to be one fucking person. You know what I'm saying? So I was in from that moment on, right when the X-wing came up and the hallway scene, the force crush scene, I was just glued. I watched that episode probably 6 times that weekend. I just could not leave it alone. It was so good. So back to our point though, the first 2 seasons were so fucking good of this show. We have such high expectation for this season, and I'm having a hard time when I think back about it. I'm just like, we've been let down a lot when it comes to these shows recently. So why is it so hard for me to accept that Mando could possibly do it too? You know what I'm saying? And I think it
Yeah,
has, like I said, my whole point was I think it has to do with how good the first 2 seasons were. You know, it's just like, oh, they're not gonna fuck this up. There's no way they can. You know, that's my mindset because this is their fucking brand right here, bro. The Mandalorian made Star Wars Disney Plus. They would not have. Imagine if they didn't had the Mandalorian and they just started shitting out shows like Boba Fett, Kenobi, Andor, all these other shit. They just started shitting these out, and we never had Mandalorian. Disney Plus Star Wars would probably have already been sold by now.
Well, we're also missing one show that kind of also helped
Yeah, I
make
know I'm
it.
forgetting what show am I
Dude,
missing?
it was season 7 of the Clone Wars.
Okay, that's the newer one. Yeah.
Right, yeah, and so when we got that, because even that was Mandalorian heavy, you know
Hmm.
what I'm saying? Because of Darth Maul, and then
What
we
a
got
good
that.
season, though. Holy shit! What a
Yeah, I
good
mean,
season.
because honestly, before I even watched Mandalorian, I was getting like I was hyped because I just finished watching Clone Wars with my son, just so we could set it up and roll straight into there. Then right after that, we watched Star Wars Rebels, and it's man like that the way they concluded season 7 of the Clone Wars was, I think, some of the best writing and material that they did ever in Star Wars. That I mean, like even seeing Ahsoka come and fight Darth Maul, and oh my god, like it was
The way
amazing.
that Anakin viewed the ending of Revenge of the Sith in a different way, that was phenomenal to me. It was that the whole second half, especially of that season, is so fucking good. Especially after Anakin turns to Vader in season 7 of Clone Wars, it's so captivating. Um, and it sucks. And Danny and I have talked about this on podcasts when we used to do Bad Batch podcast back in the first season. So many people miss out on uh, animated content because they're so unwilling to open their mind to animated content. Um, it's just it sucks because Clone Wars is so good. Its first few seasons are a little all over the place. The timeline is not in order; it jumps back and forth in time. So if you're not a diehard fan, you're probably not even going to realize it. But if you're a diehard fan, you're probably going to pick up on some shit like, wait a second, this is happening now, but this just happened a
A couple
season
episodes
ago.
ago,
You know
yeah.
what I'm saying? So it's kind of there's some shit you'll pick up on like that, but they're missing out big time when it comes to Clone Wars and Rebels. I mean, Kanan Jarrus and Ezra Bridger are two of my favorite Jedi of all time when it comes to favorite Jedi. So it just really sucks, man, because there's a lot of good storylines and stuff that people miss out on because they're not willing to delve into the animated content of Star Wars. Yeah.
Well, I mean, the one thing that is kind of that it's kind of how it's like for me it's gained traction is Filoni and Favreau being like, oh, this is now what's canon, like this is what we're taking, this is how the direction Star Wars is going in. And so if you're a Star Wars fan where you've read the books and you even dived into Legends a little bit, and you're seeing things come piece by piece, being put, the Lego pieces are coming together to make the Death Star. It's fucking it's unbelievable. Like to me, like if you don't watch the Clone Wars animated series, dude, you're gonna be lost in the sauce for most of the shit that's going on, and in between, either on the front and the back side. So I mean, like for me,
And a
watching
lot
the
of
back.
a lot of Mandalorian stuff. Like you need to watch some of the stuff in Clone Wars to even know what the fuck's going on in Mando.
Yeah, I mean, and then like the one thing that got me kind of a little bit more hype is I thought that Lizzo's planet was actually going to be a flashback scene to Mandalore before it was destroyed, because that culture has that same dome uh, construction as like the Mandalorians. So I was literally expecting that when they flew and you saw them first go land on the planet, I was like, oh shit, like this is a Mandalorian flashback. Like, is this gonna be like Bo Katan like interacting with her sister, who we don't know what happened to? We know what happened to Duchess, and
That's just a
we don't know what happened to her little sister. And my belief is that the armor is Bo Katan's sister. because the way she recognized Bo-Katan, even in her armor, you know what I'm saying? Like most of the time, like, oh, this is Din Djarin. You got to read somebody's, you got to read their chain code to know who they are. Like how Boba Fett introduced himself and like, hey, like I am a part of the Mandalorian culture. Like this is my chain code, you know. And it's like,
She is famous though. She's royal bloodline. The Kreese family. They were rulers, you know. So I think we might have even talked about this before, but I think the artwork on that sector of Mandalorians that puts artwork on their, you know, designs or whatnot, I think like hers is pretty well known. You know what I'm saying? So I'm pretty sure the armor, even if it wasn't her sister, she would know who Bo-Katan was, even with her helmet on.
well, you would think Din Djarin would too, because the Night Watch was the war party that Bo-Katan was in. But when the Clone Wars ended, so you would even, if that was the case, you would even think that Din Djarin, growing up, would know exactly who Bo-Katan is, but he doesn't. Even though, like, you got to remember, her older sister was a pacifist. You know what I mean? They were like, oh no, we're gonna get rid of the warrior ideology of the culture, but Bo-Katan was fucking OG. She was, I mean, like she's Old Testament. You know, violence, sword, destruction, will of God, whatever you want to call it, right? But but like they always hinted that there was a third sister, but we never got a glimpse, or any kind of reveal. And if you even look at the actresses, they kind of favor each other a little bit in their looks.
It would explain something to me also that I've been curious about from that last episode. Because at the beginning, when Bo-Katan told the armorer about seeing the mythosaur, she kind of just wrote it off like, oh yeah, a lot of people have had visions, you know, and kind of wrote it off as a dream or a vision, and that it wasn't real. And then all of a sudden, at the end of the last episode, she comes into the armory, and the armorer is basically like, so this saying the mythosaur thing, I totally believe you, and you know, just starts this conversation about it. So that I was kind of like, why did she go from pushing it off and not even taking it seriously to being attentive and serious about it? And that what your theory might explain why, you know, because she's sympathetic. Sympathy could be the reason why she is more inclined to believe her after putting more thought into it, because of being her sister. So that's a good theory, actually, in my opinion.
I mean, but if you even think about it, like even the armor's headpiece gives it away. It kind of seems like she was a part of Darth Maul's Mandalorian. She's got.
I mean, yeah, I've kind of thought of. She's been a Mandalorian for a while, to be honest.
You know, and then because you got to remember, Darth Maul had the Darksaber. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. He won the Darksaber in a duel, and he kind of at that point jumped into Mandalorian culture. But I the reason why I think it's her sister is just because you got to think, dude. Paz Vizsla, House Vizsla is a famous, renowned bloodline and Mandalorians, and people he had to introduce himself as Paz Vizsla before people even know who he was. So you got to think like there's I mean, for you to literally recognize who someone is without any introduction, and then oh, that's Bo-Katan Kryze. I mean, like even like think about this. Even if that I mean, yes, it was well known, but you gotta think there was a whole war and massacre and genocide of the people. So with that genocide and them pretty much blasting the planet in the glass, and you know, into that green crystal, you would think that, you know, her being the princess, more people would know who she was. Paz Vizsla had no idea who she was. He didn't introduce her. and she worked for his father. You see what I'm saying? And he didn't even know who Bo-Katan was. You
Right.
know, so like if for the armorer to immediately jump and be like, "Oh my God, she's a night owl. That's Bo-Katan Kryze," and it's like, how the fuck did you know that? Because if you think about that, if it was that other female Mandalorian that we met in on the Calamari planet, where that they had this identical armor on, like piece for piece, strap for strap, they had identical armor. So how would she know just from looking at Bo-Katan that was Bo-Katan without any like introduction or anything? The only thing that makes sense is that she's intimately connected to Bo-Katan in some way.
Right. Yeah, it would. I think it'd be a good. That'd be a good plot, in my opinion. I would not be upset about that, her being the sister. So we've been
Go ahead.
going for a little over an hour now. Any final thoughts before we get out of here, Travis? I know you've just been observing and listening most of the tonight.
I'm sober tonight.
Sober tonight. Gotta go to work in the morning. Is that why?
I have to go to work every day, but
Oh, yeah.
I could have been extra quiet if I would have did some of this.
Oh man, my closing argument or statement would be, I'm happy that we're privileged enough to live in the area that we are, to have things flushed out, to like for me, like one of the most exciting things about the show is the lore about some of the animals. You know what I mean? Like the mythosaur was a big one for me. The crate dragon was a big one for me, and even the Rancor on Book of Boba Fett was that I had to watch it just because I was like, what happened to the Rancor? Then all of a sudden, episode 6, he's riding out on the giant Rancor,
Yeah.
fucking shit up, being all badass. I thought it was awesome. But what the one thing that I'm looking forward to is, like, I think that we're on track to hear Grogu's first words this season. Because if you notice, every episode this season, the coos and the babbling, there's more of it in each episode. Like even when he first flipped over to Lizzo, blah 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, oh, so and what we do know is Yoda is an outlier when it comes to that kind of pattern of that riddle speech. Yaddle didn't talk that way. So I'm thinking, hey, we're either gonna get a huge Hail Mary out of left field from to either an epic battle, Gideon or a Throng. Not I'm not saying like a 10-minute scene. I'm thinking like, oh, it ends and you see General Throng like stand up out of his chair and blah 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 blah. He's on this giant Star Destroyer, right?
Yeah, cameo, whatever.
Yeah, but I'm foreseeing that. I'm looking forward to it. I am just hoping, and I have my fingers crossed, not to have an episode 3 or episode 6 again. Like if they waste these last two episodes, if they waste these last 2 episodes with that kind of crap, it's gonna turn off a lot of fans. First of all,
I don't know if you've seen it on social media or not, but this season of The Mandalorian has significantly lower ratings than both of the other seasons. Unfortunately, as much as I am enjoying it, I see why.
I mean, I agree. Like this isn't the best season of Mandalorian. It's almost like they took the same strategy and structure of Book of Boba Fett and they threw it into Mandalorian. And to me, I just feel that that's lazy writing. Like these third, fourth, and fifth characters don't need to be explained that much, man. You don't really got to give us the ins and out. You don't got to turn this into Andor season 1.5. Like we don't need that. What we need now, especially after seeing how you you stole from the book of Boba Fett. You need to make the story about the Mandalorians, not about anyone else. Stick to the Mandalorians and what's relevant to them, and that's all I got.
Right.
I'm just hoping there's going to be some big Mandalorian Imperial battle outside of Mandalore, or like they just go down on Mandalore, like, oh hell yeah, this is home, let's run it. Then Moff Gideon pops out of nowhere, like, surprise, bitches.
Before we go, but would y'all think it's sick seeing Moff Gideon in Mandalorian armor?
Yes.
Like some dude just comes out. He's not, he's not the greatest physical fighter, but he does something significant. Fuck some people up and then reveals his face. I think that would be legit as fuck, to be honest.
But he's also a brilliant tactician, like Thrawn.
Yeah. True. Very true. All right, guys. Well, we will try to do this next week. I know it's kind of been like an every other week thing. It's kind of a good thing for this season, to be honest, with some of the lackluster episodes. The every other week thing is giving us a little bit more to talk about, but we'll try to get together next week, and especially if it's a really good episode next week and we just need to talk, then obviously we'll do it. But looking forward to hopefully having some good stuff to talk about for the next couple episodes.
This is the way.
Yes, sir. This is the way.
This is the way.
All right, brothers. You have a good night. Thanks for having me.
Yes,
Dude, I always enjoy nerding out with you guys, man. It's been this is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, the Star Wars community, needs more fans to honestly express how they feel about it. Because you think about it, Marvel's got it, DC's got it. We need more. Game of Thrones had it. We need more Star Wars fans to create more Star Wars content. To raise the bar. You know what I mean? Because
for sure,
Mandalorian set the first season and the second season set the bar so high. They really need to knock this season out of the park with these last two episodes.
Well, I'm gonna go over the last few episodes of the podcast that we did, and make some clips for Reels for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and whatnot. And hopefully before the next episode, I'll have some of those that I can send y'all and we can share around on social media and start hopefully funneling some viewers to YouTube and getting a little traction. I didn't expect anything so soon, but once we start advertising, maybe we can get some people actually watching it. And
bro, like, instead of just Instagram, make sure you get some TikTok.
That's like, you need to do all of them for sure. Twitter,
that's the hot ticket item right now is TikTok.
I actually have accounts for the podcast for every social media already. I just need to start clipping these podcasts into shorts and uploading stuff that's interesting. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Well, you guys have a good night, man. It's always a great experience, and dude, like, let's cross our fingers, man. We gotta. Yeah. These last two episodes better be some hot lava. Like
fire. Yep.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Y'all have a good weekend. I'll see y'all next week.
All right. Peace out, bro.
Later.